Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Sam Beyond and Through with Monty. Today, we are going to go over the ridiculously foolish statements by, what is her name? Simone? And what is she famous for? I guess she's an entrepreneur, social media star, non-thinker, follower, someone who doesn't read or study history, who makes assertions. Well, anyway, she made some news recently because of comments in which she made about Dr. Martin Luther King. Things in which she has no clue about. But before I go on, I will let you hear from the horse's mouth herself.
That Martin Luther King is the man that fought for freedom, or the fact that he was cheating on his wife?
Jesus. I'm going to give you this example. He's a great father. He's a great businessman. He's a great CEO. He's an entrepreneur. He's such a boss. He's a boss. Look at that man. He's a boss. He's a great father. Look at him, that strong black man.
Look at him being at his kid's game.
But you're cheating on your wife. You're not a good husband. But he's great in all these other aspects. How are you a great leader, a great CEO, a great black man? You're not great. You're not great. God, you're not.
Okay, so you heard that. So she's asserting like she knows for sure, like she was there, like she witnessed things, or like she knew someone who witnessed things that King cheated on his wife, Coretta. Now, let's examine this farther. And we're going to go pretty deep in here. Coretta Scott King, in her autobiography, My Life, My Love, My Legacy, states in her own words that she did not believe King cheated, that she did not believe that her husband committed any acts of infidelity. She states that she believes that during the years in which they were married, that he remained faithful. Coretta Scott King had a gut feeling MLK was loyal despite FBI findings. A woman's intuition, gut feeling, is hardly wrong. And I believe her, because I'm going to get into why I believe what she's saying. Now, with this story right here, it goes like this here. Despite the FBI allegedly having audio recorded of his infidelities, her answer was no. As she explained it, her husband had a guilt complex that compelled him to confess to any wrongdoing. Minus any such confessions and a gut feeling their marriage was sound, Coretta reasoned that he must have been faithful. So therefore, that's from his own wife. I don't think that she would lie or be in denial. She had a gut feeling that he was faithful in their marriage. She knew him better than us. She knew him better than Simone. She knew him better than anyone. That was her husband. So I believe her. Now, let's get into Ralph Abernathy, supposedly one of King's close friends. You got to watch who's in your corner, because there are many snakes right there. A close friend can hurt you worse than an enemy can any day, because they're close to you and you're kind of like have your guard down. But he wrote this book, and in this book he alleges that King came out of a room with a woman. Now mind is that he did not see any type of acts of infidelity, but he says that he's basing that upon King coming out of a room. Now we'll get into that. It goes like this. In the book, Abernathy, who was King's close friend and top deputy at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, wrote that he awoke from a nap in a woman's living room after a long night dinner on April the 3rd, 1968, to see King and the woman emerge from a bedroom. So basically, he's basing that upon he did not see them doing any type of the nasty. They just walked from a room. So that's what you're basing an infidelity on. And you're going to write a whole book. By the way, it was very brief. This is what he put in the book. Okay, Abernathy sued for libel. By the way, the woman who he claimed it happened with, she's suing him. New York, a woman filed a $10 million libel lawsuit yesterday against the Reverend Ralph Abernathy and the publisher of his memoir, claiming she is the woman he implied slept with the Reverend Martin Luther King the night before he was slain. So this woman right here, she came forward. Remember this, she came forward and denied the claims, debunked them. The plaintiff, Adjuda Abi Naantaabuu, said the defendant falsely and maliciously charged and caused the readers of the book to believe that she had engaged in adulterous behavior and sexual relations with Dr. Martin Luther King on the last night of his life. So therefore, if this were true, why would she come forward, I'm thinking, and just put her and her family, by the way, she was married, through the ringer like that? Why not just let it pass? Because Abernathy didn't name her. She could have went under the radar, undetected. He just said a woman. So therefore, she is putting forth out there that it is absolutely 100% not true. And she was willing to go to court, under a court of law, to sue his ass for libel. Now we're going to get into this. Now, keep one thing in mind. Ralph Abernathy was jealous of King. By the way, he was a drunk. That particular night when he supposedly seen them come out of a room, and which they did. She said they did come out of a room, but they did not engage in any type of sexual liaisons. He was drunk that night, had too much to drink. So I'm wondering, did he have a drinking problem? And he was slated to possibly take King's place after King was assassinated. But he did not have what it takes. He did not have King's leadership ability, speaking ability, nor charisma, nor intelligence. By the way, if King did engage in these affairs, and this is your friend, usually a best friend would have passed on a piece and said, let's break off a piece together. Let's do something together. But that never happened. So I don't believe that these liaisons did happen. And we're going to get to the bottom of why I do not believe they happened. This actress right here is Jean Seberg. She was an actress during the 40s, 50s, and 60s. But I want you to hear her story because it's a tragic one. Seberg was among the best-known targets of the F.B.I. Counterpro project. Her targeting was in a retaliation for her support of the Black Panther Party, a smear directly ordered by J. Edgar Hoover. So basically, J. Edgar Hoover ordered a smear campaign against Jean Seberg, like he did a lot of other people. Now you're going to see why I tend to believe Coretta Scott, his widow, as to Martin Luther King being faithful. Okay, the Federal Bureau of Investigation acknowledged today that its agents plotted in 1970 to besmirch the reputation of Jean Seberg, the actress who committed suicide last week, by planting a rumor with news organizations that she was pregnant by high-ranking member of the Black Panther Party. So basically that caused her to prematurely go into labor, and the baby did not survive. And on the anniversary of the baby's death, she tried to commit suicide until she finally succeeded. So what the F.B.I. did was a smear campaign. Anyone who they felt was a threat, they would come out with a smear campaign. Usually it was involving some type of sexual innuendo. They did the exact same thing with Malcolm X and his wife Betty, stating that they had an open marriage and they had many sexual partners within that marriage. According to a document dated April 27, 1970, the Los Angeles office of the FBI requested permission from J. Edgar Hoover, then director of the Bureau, to publicize Miss Seberg's pregnancy, saying it was felt the possible publication of Seberg's plight could be cause her embarrassment and serve to cheapen her image with the general public. So that was a smear campaign to cheapen her image within the general public. Now, Hollywood star Jean Seberg was destroyed by the FBI. They had a way of going after people who they felt threatened by, who they felt was very powerful, who they felt in some way can undermine American society. They set out to destroy them. And here it goes right here. FBI admits Seberg's lies about Jean Seberg. Well, at least they finally had a heart, but whatever. Still doesn't make them good people. J. Edgar Hoover's role in killing of 2 Black Panthers demand a reckoning. So basically, he played a role in the demise of 2 Black Panther members because he felt like they were a threat. This man was a racist. Despite him having some black in him, doesn't matter. He was not black. I'm not claiming that at all. He was not one of us. But he was a racist. He hated and loathed black people. So let's go on. J. Edgar Hoover, Black Panther, greatest threat to U.S. security. See that right there? Here we have a white man basically terrified of black men to the point that he would participate in the murder of 2 and then basically work to derail the organization, to dismantle the organization. As stated before, with Martin Luther King and his wife Betty, rumors were abound by the FBI that they had an open marriage with many sexual partners. It was untrue. Okay, discredit, disrupt, destroy. FBI records acquired by the library reveal violent surveillance of black leaders, civil rights organizations. Martin Luther King was at the very top. Okay, counter-surveillance operations, subversive civil rights groups, and the black leaders, including the Black Panther Party, Martin Luther King Jr., Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, and many others. There you go. So these lies right here about Martin Luther King, they were just that. They were lies in which the FBI put out there. The FBI, whose head at that particular time was racist J. Edgar Hoover, who hated black people. FBI documents from 1960s alleges Martin Luther King Jr. had affairs with 40 women and stood by as a friend raped a woman, a new report said. This is absolutely, utterly ridiculous. If Martin Luther King had affairs with 40 women, wouldn't you have think that one of the women would have at least come forward, spoken, given a testimony? Not one single woman has ever come forward. And by the way, he stood by as a friend raped someone. You can tell that's a smear campaign. Garrow said memos say King engaged in orgies. That's ridiculous. Okay, Martin Luther King in orgies. Solicited prostitutes and looked on and laughed as a pastor he knew raped a woman. By the way, if he had all these orgies, where are the people? Where are the men and women who participated in these orgies, who seen King butt naked? Where are they at? Where are the prostitutes at? You cannot tell me that all these years later, you cannot get one testimony from one single person if this really happened. Now you see why I tend to believe Coretta, his wife. I believe her. These people have absolutely not one single person who has come forward. A FBI secretly recorded King in a years-long effort to discredit him. What does that tell you right there? The tapes themselves remain under seal in the U.S. National Archives. The Garrow article was rejected by more prominent news outlets. So the story carries many unanswered questions about the accuracy of the FBI material. See that? If these have many questions about the accuracy, how in the hell can someone like B. Simone speak so assuredly that this really did happen? She's a damn fool. And anyone else who believes this shit right there, you're foolish as well. There's no proof that this has ever happened. You're going to sit right there and believe some racist, deranged lunatic like J. Edgar Hoover, who basically ordered this type of discredited information to discredit leaders. Okay. In practice, the FBI used infiltration, legal harassment, disinformation, and sometimes extra-legal intimidation and violence against King, the Panthers, and other black activist groups. In its attempt to discredit and disrupt them. What more proof do you need? This is the reason why I do not believe that Coretta Scott King was a woman in denial. I do not believe that she was someone who was burying her head in the sand, who couldn't handle the truth. She had every reason to believe because she knew how the FBI operated then. She knew the discrediting tactics in which they would use. She knew that they would use things about sex. That's what they did in the 40s, 50s, 60s. They did the same thing with Eartha Kitt. They made her out to be this raging nymphomaniac. They did this things with many of black leaders back then. They discredited them by stating they had this wild, perverse sexual proclivities. So people, when it comes to someone like this clown, B. Simone, who does not do any damn type of studying, who does not do any type of reading, does not do any type of research, who just believes stuff that people put out there, believe that racist news organizations and media, believe in a deranged killer like J. Edgar Hoover, you got to give her a side eye. Give anyone like this a side eye who believes this stuff right there. Just because this shit is popular and it's out there does not mean that it's true. And what they did with King and many other black leaders, they put information out there to discredit them. This information that was put out there was disinformation. King had all of these women, supposedly for all these years, 40 or more, brought prostitutes, orgies. Not one single person has ever come forward to confirm that. Not one. Ralph Abernathy made a claim that he seen King emerge from a bedroom with a female. She took his ass to court. She sued him. So no, I don't believe these stories right that they're putting out there. And I have reason to. I mean, not to believe them. There's no proof. So if there's no proof, there's no story for me to believe. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty. And I will see you all beyond and through.